How's it going, guys? My name is Tavarish, and just like most of you, I love cars. And for as long as I can remember, I've been driving, repairing, and modifying cars that I could barely afford to keep running. But I've always had a dream of one day owning a true exotic sports car. And for me, the car that kept me up at night was the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. I was obsessed with this car for more than half a decade. Just look at this whiteboard I had in my parents' house in 2010, where I promised myself that I would work hard and get one in 4 years. To this day, it's still the banner on my YouTube channel. This car was jaw-droppingly beautiful, had a spine-tingling exhaust note, and while it was still way too expensive for me to buy as a struggling YouTuber, I figured that if I saved every penny I had, it might have been possible to buy one of my own. And 8 years ago, only 2 years late on my goal, I visited another up-and-coming YouTuber, Doug DeMuro, and drove home my new-to-me 2007 Aston Martin V8 Vantage. It cost me $36,000, which was everything I had at the time. But it was totally worth it because I made video after video, and it helped my channel tremendously. And every time I drove it, it was an event. And it was something I never wanted to part with. That was until I had to sell it to a friend to pay for my first big rebuild project. Until one day, I was browsing Auto Tempest and noticed that my exact car was for sale only hours away. I made an offer, hopped on a plane, and went to go see my car after nearly a decade of being apart. So that brings me here. I am here in Atlanta in front of my friend Ed Bullion's house where I just had the car delivered. I haven't seen it. I am super nervous because this car has been on my mind for years. And I'm about to see my old car. Oh my goodness. So here she is.
In all her glory.
Hands off the merchandise, buddy.
There you go. Oh my goodness.
So this is 83,000 miles. Yeah, this car has not depreciated 1 cent in the last 6 years. So I sold it, well, Doug DeMuro sold it to me for $36,000, and then I sold it to Gregson for $36,000. He sold it to the guy that he sold it to for $36,000. That guy sold it to me for 36 grand. So, zero depreciation. This car, I mean, it's only going up.
And money's worth the same now.
Money's worth exactly the same. Don't
Euro paid for it.
You know what, man? I just don't ruin this. Look at that.
Oh man, it's got owner's manuals?
Yeah, it's got stuff in it. Oh wait, okay. So we got the owner's manual. It's missing a little bolt there.
A little extra carbon fiber?
Yeah, so that's a thing. That is the puck to put on a jack. So you put this in the body of the car.
Yes, yeah, you got 2 of them.
Sweet.
A flash for the ECU for the velocity.
Nice.
There you go. Oh, you got another key. Is this the one you tore apart?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, look at that.
Who remembers that thumbnail?
Oh my goodness.
Millions and millions of people. It's molded over it.
It is. So for people that don't know, the Aston Martin key fob is a Volvo key fob they just put leather over, and they put little glue over here so you can't feel the Volvo, but that's what it literally is. This should drive pretty well, other than a few things. I know the previous owner said that the brakes need some work, and it has a few little odds and ends, but I'm really interested in driving it. You can see the original silver color here. This is a wrap, and I'm not a big fan of wraps, so this is probably going to come off. But, dude, I am speechless because this car, it was the first nice car I've ever had. You know, it was the first exotic car, and it wasn't the fastest thing in the world, but every time I got in it, it was an event. And I felt like, you know, it's like a turning point in my life. And, you know, when I had to get rid of it for the Gallardo, that was a real sad day for me. But
I remember that conversation well.
Hey, should I buy this Gallardo?
No, you shouldn't, but it probably will work out well at some point. And look, here we are. But you've only owned clean title supercars from this manufacturer.
That is very true. Clean title, not clean. Yeah.
No, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The more I spoke to Ed, the shrewd negotiator, the more he tried to convince me that maybe I should have haggled on price when buying this car. But I knew a thing or two about the Aston Martin Vantage market because I use Auto Tempest every day. Now, it's a platform that searches every major car listing site in one very easy search. Not only do they have features that can help you laser focus on the exact trim and model you want to buy, but it can show you the sales histories of some of the cars currently on sale to see if they've had price cuts or increases in the past. It's an amazing tool that puts the power in the buyer's hands and lets you negotiate the kind of prices that Ed Bullion could only dream of. And even if you're window shopping, it's the best way to research a car you're still saving up for, like I was all those years ago. Now, after comparing with Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, I knew that my car was in a very reasonable range of pricing for V8 Vantages. But with a 6-hour drive ahead of me in an aging, high-mileage exotic, it was finally time to see if my car was as good as I remembered it to be.
All right, first time driving my Aston Martin after many, many years, and honestly, it feels really, really good. It feels super familiar. And that noise, oh, that noise is so good. There is a noise that isn't so good though. I don't know if you can hear it. It's like a beeping, and that's because this car thinks the hood is open, and it's not. And one thing I just noticed is that when the car thinks the hood is open, the windshield wipers don't work. So we have a 6-hour drive ahead of us, and I think this is going to be a quite annoying 6 hours. The good thing is the previous owner rain-xed the windshield for me, so I can see okay. Hope it doesn't get any worse than this. I love the rain, especially when my windshield wipers don't work. Oh boy, I should have fixed that.
Thankfully, the rain stopped right as I left Atlanta, and I decided to give the car a quick wash to get the nasty road grime off, and to see if it was as watertight as it left from the factory. Oh, okay, all right. That's not watertight. Not even a little bit. There's water all over my interior. Oh, boy. Oh my goodness. Okay. Whoops. And with my Vantage clean enough for who it was for, I admired the sunset for a bit before I hit the road and tested out another key component of the car, the sound system. Now this is a new one for me. Usually, I have to do major repairs to a car before I can take it anywhere, much less a 400-mile trip. But as I was driving my dream car back home, I made a decision to return it to the exact spec that it was when I first had it. And that meant that the next morning, we had our work cut out for us. So now that the car is here in my shop, actually, this is the first time this car has ever been to my shop, because when I first got this car, I was working in my 2-car garage at home, but now this is among friends. But I know this car looks probably okay on camera, but what you don't see are the details. Now, this is a wrap, and it was a wrap put on very, very long ago, and it hasn't fared very well. And I'm not a big fan of vinyl wraps on cars because they leave a texture and it's not as good as paint. So the first thing we're gonna do, because we do have a lot of things to do on this car with the brakes and the tires and the wheels and doing a tune-up and all that stuff, is getting this vinyl wrap off. Take a look at this. So
Here's the 4.3 liter V8. It is a dry sump. It is derivative of the Jaguar AJ V8. And this was hand built in England by Mr. Mick Moten. So if I have a problem, then I have to call him. I don't know his number, so it's gonna be a problem. Most of the engine is behind the strut towers, which technically makes this a front to mid-engine car. So there you go. It's basically a Ferrari. Now, to take off this wrap, it's actually quite easy. We just go from the edge, and some wrap shops will just shellac this entire thing with glue. Hopefully they didn't do it here, because that's gonna make this very, very hard. Now, I've had this car outside for a little bit because you want the wrap to be sort of warm and pliable, and the sun is really good at doing that. So if you take a look underneath here, you can see the original silver metallic paint, and the jury is absolutely out on whether this paint is still in good condition, but hopefully it will be okay, and we can polish it up, and it's going to look better than it ever has. And now we just have to do this for the entire car. Oh my goodness, this is going to take a while.
Removing vinyl wrap, in theory, is easy. It should be like peeling a sticker, but because the wrap was on the car for several years after its usable life, it was a monumental task to just pull the blue color off the Vantage's long hood. So I did what anyone would do in this case, and I asked my friends for help. Now I do have to be clear, none of us had ever taken apart an Aston Martin before, and we learned that this wrap was applied very meticulously, meaning that in order for the wrap to stick and not show seams, the shop that installed it originally removed body panels to tuck the edges away. And this meant that an easy afternoon job would turn into a multi-day ordeal. So armed with some heat guns and a blowtorch, we worked our butts off to get this Aston Martin into its birthday suit. With the car now on the lift, Jack Rex and a 40 pounds heavier Tavarish spent another several hours removing the vinyl, which by this time was getting quite annoying.
So there's a reason why I don't like vinyl wraps, is because if it's done right, then you have to take the entire car apart. And if it's done wrong, you still have to take the entire car apart, it's just there's more glue. In theory, vinyl wrap should be like faster to remove and like color change and stuff, right? But it's not. Nope. It just isn't, because like the entire car has to go through a bath of like alcohol to take off all the glue, and then God forbid they put some cutting implements on the paint, and then they make deep gouges in it, or the paint comes off. That's fun. Sometimes paint is old, sometimes clear coat gets old, and then it just comes off because they put the vinyl wrap on with some really hard glue. So I am really enjoying that. So even after the vinyl wrap is taken off, you know, you're trying to, you know, preserve the paint underneath. The paint comes off, so you have to repaint the car anyway. All right, guys, now it is really clear that we have a lot of work to do on this Aston Martin. Now, me and the guys are all hands on deck. Everybody here is chipping in. It comes with a little bit of an issue. You see, when everybody is here and working and wrenching, it can get a little bit loud. And for me, I kind of like my alone time when I'm doing stuff on a car. Thankfully, today's sponsor has you covered, and I'm talking about Raycon. So if you haven't heard of Raycon's everyday earbuds, then you are missing out, because check out these features. They have active noise cancellation, a 32-hour battery life, they have quick charge function, which means that 10 minutes of charging yields 90 minutes of battery, and also an awesome ergonomic design to fit the widest range of ears and optimized gel tips for a cozy custom fit. You also have multi-point connectivity, awareness mode, and it's IP66 weatherproof, and it has sweat resistance. I need that. I get sweaty sometimes. So my personal favorite feature is a noise canceling function. A lot of you actually don't know this, but I have to sleep in earbuds. My brain goes a billion miles an hour. And with these, they are not only very, very comfortable, but they allow me to sleep because they allow me to tune everything out. Now, I urge anybody to try these out because these rival anybody in the premium audio game, but they are half the price. And they're having an awesome Black Friday sale right now. So go to buyraycon.com/TavarishYT to get up to 30% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/TavarishYT. It's in the link in the video description below. Go check these out right now.
With the last of the wrap finally off, I got to work de-trimming the car to make sure we didn't miss anything. And although the car was no longer blue, it was covered in glue. So Rex used a steam machine to clean off the original side skirts, and then decided on a quicker option for the rest of the car.
So this is the G-Technique tar and glue remover. Probably one of the strongest one I've tried. I mean, it really does work amazing. What you do is spray it on, and then you agitate it around and let it sit for like a minute. And then you could either use a towel, but then I thought, you know, I'd make more mess if I did it with a towel because it sticks on the towel. So I'm using a plastic blade. Make sure it's plastic so you could actually compound it or buff it off later, I think. Worst case scenario, we have that guy right there.
I don't know what I'm doing.
With the glue now literally falling off the car in sheets, my attention was called to the first disaster of the day.
It is a bunch of 2 steps forward and 1 step back because we have removed a lot of the vinyl wrap, but since we have removed a lot of the vinyl wrap, we found some paint damage, and that's what happens when you remove it with the quickness. Honestly, this is, well, there's some clear coat peeling right here, and it just looks really, really bad. Now, the reason why Jack is here is because he is taking this door apart because we think we can fix this.
I'm not a painter, but I pretend to be one on weekends, and it's almost the weekend. We're on Friday. So what I'm going to do is, I believe that this has been cleared before, and I think when you clear a panel, you really don't sand it too aggressively when you're just clearing it. Like say you have a blend panel or a panel you're just going to clear into. Usually you sand it with like 800 grit, and I'm assuming that's probably what happened here because I can see a shininess. If you look close, I don't know if camera will pick it up, but it looks like scuffed clear coat. It doesn't look like base coat. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sand this smoothish as good as I can get it without hitting through to the base coat.
I like that word, smoothish.
Yeah, smoothish, because
smoothish is like, you know, that's it's good enough for who it's for.
Yes. So if I leave any spots where like you can see these little white spots here, that will show up underneath, but that is actually going to delaminate underneath the clear, causing the clear to fail again. So I'm going to attempt to sand it nice and smoothish, and then once I got that pretty close, I'll give a quick blow with the blower to see if anything flakes off, and if it doesn't flake off from there, should be good. The trick is not sanding the base coat. If I sand the base coat at all, it's going to show up like a sore thumb. Once you put clear on anything, it just makes it amplified times 10.
We're gonna see if we can do a homemade clear coat repair on a Aston Martin, which had really, really good paint at one point. What do you think about Aston Martin build quality?
It's very high quality the way that the panels are. I'm definitely very impressed with that, but you know, they're kind of like, hey, let's put a tiny little screw over here that makes it so impossible to get to that when you go to repair the car that you just want to rip the whole door off.
So this is British engineering. You have Aston Martin, McLaren, Lotus, and you'll understand, Noble. Yeah. So it'll be fun taking this car apart, putting it back together. But I'm doing something that's even more important for this car, and that is the brakes. So the brakes are super important on this car because it's a sports car, and we're going to be accelerating hard and braking really hard. It looks like whoever had the car before me did a lot of both of those things because this is on a track, and you can tell right here, this is really past it. This is the old brake rotor on the front, and you can feel this with your fingernail. This is all rusted because the car hasn't really been used all that much, but when you have grooves in this rotor, that's not good because there's grooves in the pad, and then you have metal on metal contact. It really isn't good. And plus, while I was driving here, on the way here, I felt a lot of vibration, and there was a little bit of rumbling coming from the brakes. So that means we have to replace them with this. So this is a brand new brake rotor, and we have a brand new set of pads and the grease and stuff and all the hardware. So that means if I put this in place of this, hopefully this car will run like stock, and then I'll have an awesome daily driver.
The brakes on an Aston Martin are similar to the brakes in most exotic sports cars and easier than you think to service. First, 2 pins have to be hammered out of the front to remove the pads. Then 2 bolts are removed to take off the 4-piston Brembo caliper. And with the rotor off the hub, it's easy to clean the hub itself with some brake cleaner before doing the entire process in reverse order and torquing every bolt to its factory spec. And since these were rear brakes, an extra step of installing the separate parking brake assembly is needed. With the wheels on the car, Jack starts sanding the door that needs a new layer of clear coat. But as with every single project we've had in the shop, it becomes abundantly clear that this car will require way more work than we first thought.
Yesterday we tried to sand the car down where we would only sand clear coat, but unfortunately we sanded through to the base coat. So what happens when you sand through to the base coat is you hit the top of these metallic flakes and you kind of cut the top off, and it creates a different looking color. So now the color is smoother, it's flatter, it's not gonna look the same when we put the clear coat over it. So that's gonna bother me a lot. What I'm gonna do now is we're gonna take off that gas lid door on the other side. We're gonna bring that to the paint shop. Before we do that, we're gonna polish it so that it's really shiny and they can get a good picture of what that actually looks like and match the paint as close as possible. Then, hopefully, we're gonna blend that paint onto the door and hide it on this line right here. And then we're gonna clear coat the door and it's all gonna match. At least that's what I hope it's gonna do.
And we're not gonna tell Freddie.
Oh, he'll never know.
Yeah,
He'll
Freddie will
never know. Only when he's editing.
Thanks. Getting a good paint match can be really, really hard, but there are ways to make it easier. Removing a small painted piece of trim, like this fuel door, is necessary so you know you have a paint match right away. And it's important to give the panel a good polish to remove any haze or discoloration that may have occurred over time. And at the paint shop, the color is held up against similarly colored paint swatches to make sure the correct shade is applied. And with a calibrated scale and computer that can tell exactly how much paint is being put in, all the toners and pearl effects are put in the can, then shaken up so the color is the same throughout the mixture. Now, usually we take the car to a paint booth about an hour away and have a professional painter do the work. But we wanted to try a new method of painting cars that we can do right here at the shop, and that's using a giant inflatable spray booth. This thing uses 2 giant fans with filters to inflate a booth about the size of a school bus, and it extracts the air inside, making it a good solution for a DIY paint booth. Since we were only painting one panel on the car and not the entire car, it saves a bunch of time and a lot of money versus going to a traditional body shop. The car gets masked up to prevent paint from going where it doesn't need to be, and the panel is wiped to remove any stuck-on dust. The pre-mixed paint is then poured into a special cup that's attached to a high-volume, low-pressure, or HVLP spray gun, and then sprayed on with thin, even coats. Jack always says he isn't a painter, but he sure looks like one to me. And after all the paint is on the panel, there's only one thing left to do.
Now we wait for paint to dry, literally. We're waiting for paint to dry.
So I want to finally fix something that's been bothering me on this car ever since I got it, and that is that hood switch. I know you guys saw when I first got this car, it was making a lot of noise, a lot of binging and bonging because it thought the hood switch was open when it was actually closed. So now we're going to take the hood switch apart and hopefully clean it, and hopefully it's not broken because I don't know where to get another one. The first thing we got to do is we got to take off this entire front panel, which is so wide. It's like the size of the engine. Whoops. So the way this works is there's a latch right here, and that latch closes. When that latch closes, there's a little micro switch on the bottom, and the micro switch just goes like this, opens and closes a contact. And that contact tells the car that the hood is open or closed. What happens over heat cycles and many, many miles and dirt and stuff getting into it, that contact can get dirty. And I think that's what happened with this. Now, I was gonna take this out and take it apart and clean everything, but the fact is I can't get this out because there is an electrical connection underneath that you can't see that I'm feeling around for right now. That electrical connection is probably okay because it's still giving a signal to the ECU, but the contact itself might be dirty. But there's also a manual release because like that release goes via cable all the way inside the car, and that needs to get disconnected from this side, but unfortunately I can't get to it because it's just like I don't have small pincers for hands, so I can't get to it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to take some electrical parts cleaner and then clean it as much as I can, test the system. I can do it without putting everything back together, and then hopefully we'll have a working switch. And if that doesn't work, I will just tie the wires together off camera and then pretend I did it. When this comes down, this hits a little arm, and that arm goes into the switch that's down here. You hear that?
Just like a video game.
Yeah, that click, 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 click.
There's a Nintendo in there.
This is closed, and before I put anything together, I'm gonna check if it fixed our problem. So we should have a few things warning us because our door's open and stuff. Driver door open. Time for regular service. And that's it. No more hood open. Sweet.
With the car finally warning light free, the only thing to do was to put the stock wheels back on with some new tires and give the car to Rex so he could make it shine like a diamond in a truck stop toilet. We use a pressure washer to get all of the loose dirt off and then break out the foam cannon so we can use G-Technic's Citrus Foam Wash. This step is by far the most satisfying because it looks like the car is covered in snow, and it allows for the use of a wash mitt to get all the stubborn dirt off the paint surface. He then tapes off the Aston's tired headlights before sanding and buffing them to a like-new shine. When that's cleaned off, Rex clay bars then compounds and polishes the entire car with a dual-action orbital polisher. And a few short hours later, the transformation is complete.
I can't tell you how good this feels because I am finally in my Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Oh, just listen to that. This is still the best bang for your buck you can get from any sports car. I don't care if you have an Audi R8, a Gallardo, a Ferrari 360. You can't get better than this for the money. You have a wonderful V8. Dry sump, 50-50 weight distribution. The steering is, it's just fantastic. It sounds amazing. It feels great in here. It's comfortable. I can actually talk to you. I can have a conversation in the car. I'm not going deaf. Is every bit as good as I remember it. It's actually a little bit better. Now, as good as this feels, I probably should tell you something about why this particular car is special to me. Now, I know you guys saw in the beginning of the video that, yeah, I really wanted this car for years, and I finally got the chance to buy it. And then that whole process with Doug DeMuro and making content on it and starting my YouTube channel, that was very special. But that wasn't the whole story. So when I bought this car from Doug DeMuro, I flew up to Philadelphia where he lived. And Philadelphia was only about an hour from where my parents lived. So I decided that I should probably drive over to my parents and show them the car. I mean, it was a big deal for me. And I showed my parents the car and realized that I was going back. I was driving this car back to Florida, and I invited my dad to drive with me. So we were in this car for like 18 hours, and for every single minute of those 18 hours, we didn't turn on the radio, we just talked. He showed me a lot of what it took to come to this country with nothing in your pocket. I don't know if you guys know my family backstory, but I'm the product of immigrants. I'm actually a first-generation immigrant. I was not born in this country. My parents came here from the Soviet Union when I was 3. And my dad, he had to do both my parents, they had to do everything to make ends meet and make a life for me. And it's something that I could never understand, and it's something that I could never honestly repay them, but it just meant a lot to me that he got to tell me his story, and I learned what it meant to truly be successful in life. I learned a lot about his history, about my family's history, and I also talked to him a lot about me, so I think he got a lot of insight about who I am and where I'm going in life. I truly felt like my father was proud of me. And now we got rain. The windshield wipers actually work now. Now both my parents are still around. My dad is probably watching this video right now. But this car is special to me in a way that no other cars I own are special. I want to keep this thing around for as long as I can, because if I'm lucky, when my daughter reaches driving age, she'll ask me if I want to go on a road trip with her. And if that happens, I'll tell her to pack her bags in the back and I'll throw her the keys. Now, I don't want to get too sappy. I can go on and on and on. I want to thank everybody that has been instrumental in this little build of mine. First and foremost, Auto Tempest. Now, if you guys don't know what Auto Tempest is, hit the link in the video description below. They have been sponsors of my channel and supporters of me and my crazy projects for many years. They supported Car Trek, they've supported this channel and this build for a very long time. I can't talk them up enough. They are really good people, and it's an amazing service that I really do use every single day to window shop and buy the cars that I want. So go check them out in the link in the video description below. So not only that, we have Jack, we have Rex, we have Tommy, we have everybody that made this car up to this point a reality. I mean, Doug DeMuro, Gregson from Shifting Lanes, and I also want to thank each and every one of you, because when I first got this car, when I first got this car, I didn't know where this YouTube thing was headed. I didn't know that it would become my life and I would be going around the world talking to people and sharing all of my silly and stupid car adventures with everyone. So thank you. I cannot thank you enough. But this is not the end of the video. Now, I know that I was going to take it on a shakedown run, and that's what I'm doing. We don't have any warning lights. The car sounds fantastic, and it handles great, and it looks great. But right now, I'm actually on the way to go somewhere very, very special and meet some very special people. Oh, good car. So welcome everyone to one of the craziest meets I've ever been to. Now, I have music behind me, which is probably copywritten, so I am going to scream into the camera. Now, behind me is my Aston Martin DBS and my Aston Martin V8 Vances that we just built. But behind me right here is the Aston Martin F1 tech team. These guys do everything in the F1 realm. These guys know what they're doing when it comes to wrenching, and I want to have them look at my piece of crap Aston Martin to see what they think and how I can make it better for the future. So right here we have Jordan, Harry, Matt, and Mikey from the Aston Martin F1 team. Now, they're gonna have to speak up, but I want them to see what we brought here. So this is a 2007 Aston Martin V8 Vantage, and this was my first exotic car. This was the one that really kind of cemented it all for me. This is why I do the things I do. That was loud. This is why I do the things I do, but you guys know everything there is to know about these cars in and out. Well, maybe not this car, the car's way faster. So what do you think? First of all, do you like this design? Do you like, you know, the shape of this car?
I mean, yeah, it's the V8 Vantage, when this came out, yeah, it was like nothing else. It's like good English history behind it. It's a good, clean design, definitely. Yeah. It's James Bond all over.
If you were to have this car, what would you do to it to make it better? Like, you know all the F1 tips and tricks. What would you do to make a road car even better?
Keep the drive silent for a start.
Yeah.
Stay away from a turbo.
Okay. So no turbos, naturally aspirated.
Naturally aspirated with the V8. This is one of the best, probably one of the best V8s they had. A long time ago, we ran the race version of this car in 2008 in America, actually. So there's loads of stuff you can do to these with spoilers on the rear wing, splitters on the front.
Okay.
Different pickup points for the oil scavenging pumps. There's a fair bit to do with these.
I can't hear anything. I can't hear anything.
A V12 swap.
A V12 swap.
V12 swap.
I like that. So maybe some aerodynamics, a V12 swap. What color should it be?
What colour?
Yeah.
Green. British Racing Green.
British Racing Green, I like that.
All day long.
So V12, aerodynamics, British Racing Green, but automatic or DCT or manual?
It's got to be manual.
Manual, okay. How do you?
It's got to be manual.
Yeah.
I'll keep manual 100%.
Yeah. I think so.
Manual?
Yeah, manual.
V12 manual all day long.
So we got a V12 manual in British Racing Green. That is loud. It's a Mustang. Why is it always a Mustang? So we have now a plan of what we can do for this car. I'm gonna go get some earplugs. I'll see you guys later.
Hopefully this matches. If it doesn't, don't tell Freddie. I didn't paint it. I just put clear coat on it, man.
We could just wrap it again.
We could just wrap it again.
Yeah, he won't know.
Freddie likes wraps.
He won't know.